Fake votes are impossible to prove. No, it's very easy the prove a fake vote. It's very easy to prove when somebody votes when they shouldn't have voted, right? Because like at the end of at the end of the day, I'm gonna wait till like I make my video on this mail-in ballot I have. Right? I don't know why they try it, but they do it, right? So to sit there and pretend like it doesn't, that people don't at least try to do it, is wild and crazy. But the thing is, but to sit there and say that there's mass voter fraud, not understanding just the level of difficult you have to, overcome just for one single vote, one single dead person vote, right? For it to not get caught, to at least be initially counted, which is eventually going to get caught later on anyway. No, it's not real.
Mercenary scientists, we call them biostatists, the ghostwrite studies, and that he was the one that kept those studies. His job was to make sure no study got done that would look at the links between glyphosate and cancer. I can tell you who those individuals are at CDC.
Fake votes are impossible to prove. No, it's very easy the prove a fake vote. It's very easy to prove when somebody votes when they shouldn't have voted, right? Because like at the end of at the end of the day, I'm gonna wait till like I make my video on this mail-in ballot I have. But like a lot of these, I can't speak for, obviously I don't know like how every single state does it. But I remember when I was in Pennsylvania, right? The well, first off, right, if physically voting, right, you have to go there in person, and then you have to show some type of identifiable information to show that you are the person who's on this voting roll for this particular district or whatever, right? Then you got people that then sit there and argue like ID, but like, but do not fall prey to that argument about the voter ID thing, because that's not actually real. Because like the argument is about a photo ID, right? People are still able to use. You still have to, you can't just show up and then say a name. You have to show up and you still have to provide something to show that you are the person that who you're saying that you are, right? People are just like trying to pick for a photo ID because like they sit there and they think that it'll dissuade people from voting. And then like on the Democratic side, like they sitting there and think that it'll, same thing, right? They think it's an abuse to try and like prevent people from who would have otherwise voted because they have other forms of ID from not voting. So like the whole voter ID thing is like it's truly fake. It's not, because if they was really serious about on the photo ID side, right, then they could have easily fixed everybody's problem by saying this: we will enact photo ID, but we will enact to make sure that everybody who wants to get a photo ID can get it, right? When I move from one state to the other, right, and I got to re-register my car and everything, right, I shouldn't be having to come out of my pocket almost $300, right, in order to get a new driver's license and a new registration, and I like to have custom plates. Right, so then the custom plates, because I can't obviously use the custom plates I have from my other state, right? That's a massive burden, right? Just the burden alone of just like the car, right? $100 and something is like, bro, like we was just going over, like, just like the imagine, right? You making less than $50,000 a year, and then after taxes, right? You gotta pay. You just all of a sudden you gotta pay like X amount of money in order for you to just get an ID. Why is that not just inherently like a right given to you by turning in your ID from your other state, or just a right given to you just being a citizen in the U.S. period? You know what I'm saying? Like they could easily fix that if they just said that you get ID, but they won't ever push that. They'll never push that, right? Because that would solve the problem. That solved the problem right then and there with this whole photo ID stuff. Require everybody to have photo ID to get voting. Have it so that all states have a way for people to be able to get their photo ID, right? There should be no cost barrier. There should be no hassle or nothing like that. You can easily verify your identity with your social, with your social and whatever. Show up in person, potentially do it online, depending on like how to go about doing it. Because you can get your social, if I'm not mistaken, you can get like another copy of your social security card online, right? After you go through the validation steps. I don't understand like why this isn't the same. You can renew your driver's license. You can renew your driver's license online. Like, I don't understand like why not also have it so people can like get their stuff online once they upload like proof of residency and their social security, whatever it is, right? But you'll never hear them talk about that. So now like your fake votes, now your fake vote argument is really from mail-in ballots, right? And I can't attest to how exactly every single state does it, but every ballot is actually it is actually tracked. So like but the way Pennsylvania did it for me, right, like just get documents, like it's so easy, right? You just get the documents, right, and then you show up, but there shouldn't be such like a crazy like cost and getting my license. Like it's just it's wild. But then like on Pennsylvania side, like the way they did the mail-in ballot for me, I remember one time is that they sent me a PDF document. This PDF document was locked. I couldn't, it was digitally locked. I couldn't make copies of it. I couldn't do anything. And of course you can argue that there's always ways to circumvent that. Sure. But the key thing that I noticed from it was that when I look at the document, there's they have digital codes in it, right? Which tells me that the document is also unique. So if I sat there and tried to like duplicate, if I tried to duplicate the ballot, like if I sat there and like maybe print like 5 copies of it and then tried to send them all out, like it would get busted instantly once it hits whatever like machine has to sit there and read it, because like whatever machine they use that reads these QR codes or something, and then like would definitely flag it. And then the thing is that like obviously, again, I don't know exactly how they do how they doing it specifically with the codes, but I'm sure the codes are also probably tied to the specific information given for the document. So it's not like I can like sit there and what's the word I'm looking for? Sit there and then modify the QR code to give like some other type of unique identity, because more than likely the unique identity for the document is probably based on a larger database. Think of like how you like how you make a digital purchase for something that requires a serial number, right? How the serial number gets produced in a database, right? And so now like whenever like whatever activation software you use that runs a serial number has to check with the database, right? So I can't just sit there and also manufacture like whatever uniquely identifiable information to make it different from the other the other ballots I would have printed out, right? Because it would get flagged in the machine, because there's a guarantee. There's almost a 100% guarantee that it's going to get flagged, because whatever number I'm gonna give it isn't going to exist in the database. It just isn't. So like that's why like the whole like the mail-in ballot thing is like also like pretty secure. The only thing you could possibly make the argument for maybe would be dead people voting, right? If somebody somehow got a hold of a dead person's information and then mimic their whole identification to try and vote for them. But then like the crazy thing is that people don't understand is like, you know, they're still dead. So then they still get caught, right? Because then they sit there, they run through their voter registration rolls, and they're like, okay, this person is dead, and I have a vote for them. I wonder, because right, all deaths are what? Death certificate in whatever like database system or whatever. I'm sure that they all have access to, right? So they sit there, I wonder how this happened, and then they sit there and they go and they bust these people. It's real. Yeah. No. Like, the thing is like, yes, people try it, but it is so incredibly hard to pull off, and you got to pull it off for one vote. Remember, you have to pull it off for one vote, right? How are you find? You have to, like, the best chance you have, you would have to find somebody who was registered to vote, who was alive when they registered to vote, and they just recently died. They just recently died. And then you had all of their information to vote on their behalf in order for you to potentially, you're still going to eventually get caught, but for that to eventually at least get counted initially. Initially. Because the first thing that happens when the whole voter thing stuff gets taken in court is the first thing they look at the registration rolls, right? Okay, how many people we have on the registration rolls that happen to be dead now, right? And they sit there and they gut that out, right? And then they look at the votes that they received. And then they look to see who was it, excuse me, who did any of these people happen to vote? It's incredibly easy and quick to pull it out. You're not given, when you show up physically, you're not given just a random paper for you to fill out a thing. Like they're all pre-printed. They are supposed to be pre-printed. Some other states like have a different mechanism for it, but there's still none. Yeah, that's hard. I don't know why people try it. Like right? I don't know why they try it, but they do it, right? So to sit there and pretend like it doesn't, that people don't at least try to do it, is wild and crazy. But the thing is, to sit there and say that there's mass voter fraud, not understanding just the level of difficult you have to, overcome just for one single vote, one single dead person vote, right? For it to not get caught, to at least be initially counted, which is eventually going to get caught later on anyway. No, it's not real. It's just not real. That's why when all those lawsuits and all those court cases were coming up, when Trump was trying to challenge the whole fake voter stuff, right? Why all that stuff is getting thrown out of court? They at best, how many? The thing is, like, machines miscounted. Okay, when they sat there and they ran back through it, some of those votes that the machine miscounted was actually for Joe Biden, and they counted it for Trump. So when they found that, they had to give Biden actually more of the votes. Like, it was all crazy. And then the actual fake election, or fake votes that they did find, like the actual physical amount was so low and minuscule. And the thing is, states don't play with that. There was a woman who was I think she was in Texas. She was either Texas or Florida, one of those two, where she got out of jail. She was told that she could vote. She was actually told by, like, some government official that said that she could vote. She went to vote, and then they found out that she actually wasn't legally allowed to vote, and they put her back in prison, even though they told her that she could vote initially. Like, the story was wild to me. Like states do not play when it comes to that fake vote stuff. That's why I'm like bro, like, it's not like that whole. That's why you don't even hear about it much. Well, you hear it from time to time, but you don't hear it that much anymore. You really don't, because, like, it's such a hard thing to pull off at a scale necessary to actually sway an election. Even tight races are still, like, the gap is still like usually like in a thousand, like within a thousand votes. You got to find 1,000 people that just so happen to have died within a couple of days from voting. Like, no, like stop it, just stop it. It's crazy. It's crazy. I didn't mean to rant like that, but
Colleen Boyle,
got my
Frank
point.
Stefano. I know the names because I've dealt with them. I know who has to be moved. And you know, President Trump wanted to do this. President Trump came in saying, "I'm going to drain the swamp," but he didn't know how to do it. He's confronted by this big bureaucracy, and at every level of these, you know, some of these are 60,000 people working for these agencies, and at all the sort of higher levels of that bureaucracy, you have individuals who are capable of committing a civil disobedience.
Own state.
Yeah, we need somebody in there who will not get rolled by the bureaucrats. This is what my uncle, you know, when my uncle was president during the Cuban Missile Crisis, there were 13 people on the XCOM committee who were, you know.
Nobody is swinging an election doing that anyway. The government just generates 30,000 votes. Oh yeah. Well, at least that's what Trump was hoping for when he called that Georgia governor to say, "Hey, I just need you to find 1,100 more votes, because that'll be one more than what we have currently, and I'll take care of the rest." Which is why now that court case, and that's why that Georgia court case is happening right now, right? But it's just not that simple, because those things have to be tied by identities. You would have to. So what? You generate. Yeah, we have to work. We'll work backwards to make it easy. You generate the vote, so that means you generate an identity. So then you generate a person whose name and address, right? That you have to link it to. You'd have to link it to somebody's address, preferably who doesn't actually live there. So maybe you can pick an apartment, but I guess you'd have to be mindful of the apartment's capacity and hope that that apartment isn't already at or near capacity. So maybe you got to find other places. You have to generate an identity for all of them, unique identities with different ages, right? Because they have to be at least 18. I believe you have to be at least 18 to vote, right? You should be. You have to at least 18. And then after that, you also, depending on the amount of people that you generate, 30,000, right? Then that means you also have to then somehow fake the census data, or like whatever it is, the numbers, right? Because then you also have to have the voter registration rolls to also reflect how many people were registered to vote. And then the thing is that there can't be no changes to that after election, because if there's any changes to that after election, then it becomes an issue. So that means you'd have to do this prior. And the thing is that if you do this prior and it's still not enough, then you'll also be kind of out of that. And too much work for a political candidate. You're saying that like if we actually sit there, if you sit there and you actually like looked at this step by step by step, it's just, I'm sorry, it just doesn't make sense. Like, that's why, like, it's just like these things, these ideas, it's just impossible. It's just impossible. It's just impossible to do it at a scale where people are giving up their livelihoods to like try and push and find. You know what I'm saying? How many people like or going through the court system right now, having had peddled the whole fake elector scheme or lies or whatever. Like what's I can't remember, but the Kraken lady, the Kraken lady, right? That had said she had a Kraken of evidence on the folk voting registration stuff like that. It's step after step after step. That's just like, this guy's kind of wild. I don't know.